Daniel was not a man who believed in fate. He was a traveler, a builder, and a dreamer. Since leaving Earth, he had crossed many stars and stepped on worlds filled with strange skies and stranger beings. Every planet gave him something new, lessons, friendships, and sometimes enemies. But the world of Valoria was unlike anything he had seen before. Valoria's capital city rose high with towers carved from blue stone that shimmered under two suns. The people were tall, graceful, and proud, their skin bearing colors of silver and bronze, their hair long and flowing like streams of metal. At the heart of the city sat the throne of Queen Serenia, a ruler whose power stretched across systems. She was feared for her wisdom, but even more for her temper. Daniel had come not as a warrior, but as an envoy. Earth had only recently opened contact with Valoria, and he was chosen to present humanity's desire for peace and trade. His clothes were plain compared to the jeweled robes of the Valorian court, but he carried himself with steady confidence. To him, respect was not shown through silk or gold, but through truth. The hall of the queen was vast, lined with pillars that glowed faintly from embedded crystals. Hundreds of nobles gathered, their eyes watching the human guest. Murmurs spread, like wind through grass as Daniel stepped forward, his boots echoing on the polished floor. Queen Serenia sat high upon her throne, her crown woven from living vines that pulsed with soft light. Her eyes, sharp and piercing, studied him as if weighing his worth. "You are the voice of your kind," she said, her voice carrying across the hall. "The fragile world of humans seeks bonds with Valoria. But why should we trust you? Your people are young. You have no empire, no fleets that rival ours. You are but children in the stars." The words stung, but Daniel did not flinch. He bowed his head with courtesy, then raised his gaze to meet hers. "Your Majesty, humans may be young in the stars, but youth does not mean weakness. We are not defined by the size of our fleets, but by the strength of our will. We do not bow to curses or chains. We endure, and we grow." The nobles shifted uncomfortably. Few dared to speak so directly to the queen. Serenia's lips tightened. "You dare to speak so boldly in my hall?" she asked, her voice low. "I speak only the truth," Daniel replied calmly. "If Valoria seeks allies who kneel and tremble, then perhaps humans are not what you seek. But if you wish for allies who stand strong even when the storm rages, then you will not find better than us." The hall fell silent. For a heartbeat, Daniel thought he had won respect. But the queen's eyes blazed like fire. She rose from her throne, her voice echoing like thunder. "Arrogant human," she cried. "You insult my throne with your defiance. You will pay for such pride. I curse you this day. You shall never find a mate, never wed, never know companionship. Your path will be empty, and you shall walk alone until the end of your days." Gasps filled the hall. The curse of Queen Serenia was feared across worlds. It was said that her words carried power beyond reason, shaping destiny itself. Nobles whispered that the human was now doomed. No one could break the queen's curse. But Daniel did not fall to his knees. He did not beg or tremble. He looked up at the queen, his face calm, and then he laughed. A warm, steady laugh that echoed through the hall. "Your Majesty," he said, "you have great power. But there is one thing no ruler, no curse, and no destiny can control: the will of a human heart. You may curse me, but I will never walk alone. For humans are never truly abandoned. We carry love, friendship, and memory wherever we go. That is something no curse can steal." The court froze. No one laughed at the queen. Yet here was the human, standing tall, his words cutting sharper than any blade. The queen's fury burned, but beneath it, something else stirred in the crowd. Whispers shifted from mockery to awe. Some nobles hid their smiles, though they dared not let the queen see. "Remove him from my sight," Serenia commanded. "Let the cursed human wander until he learns the cost of pride." Guards moved forward, but Daniel bowed politely, turned, and walked out on his own. He did not give them the satisfaction of dragging him. As he left the hall, his steps echoed with strength, not defeat. Outside, the twin suns shone brightly and the city streets buzzed with life. Yet as he walked, He could feel the weight of eyes upon him. Already whispers spread through the city. Mothers pulled their children away as he passed. Merchants glanced nervously and chose not to trade with him. Travelers muttered about the cursed human. The queen's words had already begun to shape his path, but Daniel kept walking. He was not a man who bent to fear. The curse, heavy as it sounded, was only words to him, and words could not bind the spirit of a human. That night, he camped outside the city walls. His small fire flickered under the starry sky. Alone, he ate from his pack, his mind calm but alert. He thought of Earth, of the people he left behind, and of the strange destiny ahead. He knew the queen would not forget him. He also knew her court would watch his every move. But what he did not know was that others had been watching him too. Hidden behind the carved balcony of the throne hall, two figures had listened to his defiance with wide eyes and quickened hearts. The twin daughters of Queen Serenia, kept from the public, hidden by their mother's pride, had seen the human laugh at the curse. And unlike the rest of the court, they did not see arrogance. They saw strength. That night, while Daniel rested, two shadows slipped silently from the palace. Their path was secret, their hearts restless. For the first time, they wanted to see a human, not as their mother's enemy, but as something more. Daniel rose with the first light of the two suns. The night had been quiet, save for the whispers of wind brushing across the tall grass outside the city walls. He packed his belongings carefully, slinging his small bag over his shoulder. Though the queen's curse still echoed in his mind, he treated it as nothing more than noise. What mattered was survival, and finding allies who could look past superstition. But as he walked along the edge of the valley, he felt eyes on him. His instincts, sharpened by long journeys, told him he was not alone. He stopped, turning his head slowly, and spoke aloud. "You may as well come out," he said, his tone calm. "I've felt you since last night." For a moment there was silence. Then, from behind a cluster of trees, two figures stepped forward. They moved gracefully, their robes flowing like silver water. Their faces were half covered with veils, but their eyes gleamed like stars. Daniel's breath caught for a moment. These were not ordinary women. He could feel their presence, strong, noble, and sharp with intelligence. "Who are you?" he asked carefully, his hand lowering from the strap of his bag to show he meant no harm. The taller of the two pulled back her veil. Her hair shimmered like white gold, and her expression was fierce yet curious. "I am Solara," she said, "daughter of Queen Serenia." The other lowered her veil as well. Her features were softer, her silver hair falling gently around her shoulders. Her eyes were calm, thoughtful. "And I am Alara," she added quietly. "Her twin." Daniel blinked. The queen's daughters? Hidden princesses, said to be sheltered from all eyes, standing before him in the open. He had heard rumors whispered in the city, but most believed the twins were legends, symbols of Valoria's pride. Yet here they were, flesh and blood. "Why, are you here?" he asked, his voice steady but edged with caution. "Surely you know what your mother has done to me." Solara stepped forward, boldness flashing in her eyes. "That is why we are here. We saw you stand against her. No one in this world would laugh at her curse. Yet you did. We wanted to see you with our own eyes." Daniel studied them. Their words carried no mockery. There was only sincerity, and something deeper, a spark of admiration. "I am not here to make enemies," he said. "I only came to speak truth. Your mother chose to see it as an insult." Alara tilted her head slightly, her voice soft but clear. "Truth is often dangerous, Daniel, yet you carried it without fear. That is rare." He frowned slightly. "You know my name?" "Of course," Solara replied with a small smile. "The whole court now knows the name of the human who defied the queen." Daniel gave a quiet laugh. "Then I suppose I'll never go unnoticed again." The twins exchanged a glance, one filled with silent understanding. Then Alara spoke. "You will not survive here if you are alone. The people fear curses. They will not trade with you nor shelter you. Even the forests are not safe at night. But we can help." Her words carried risk. Daniel knew that if the queen discovered her daughters had approached him, her fury would be boundless. Yet there was no hesitation in their voices. "Why help me?" he asked. Solara's eyes sharpened. "Because strength must be honored. You showed what even our warriors could not." You looked at her curse and laughed. "That is something no one has done before." Daniel met her gaze steadily. Then he looked at Alara, who remained calm, her expression unreadable yet kind. He saw no deceit, only truth. Slowly, he nodded. "Then I will trust you," he said simply. That night they led him away from the open plains into a hidden grove, deep within the hills. A stream ran through it, reflecting the light of the moons above. It was quiet, safe, and untouched by the queen's watchful eyes. Daniel set down his pack while Solara knelt to gather wood. Alara used her hands to call, forth a faint glow from the stones, lighting the grove in soft silver. "You wield energy like it is part of you," Daniel observed. Alara nodded. "It is our gift. Valorian blood is tied to the living crystal veins of our world. We can draw light and warmth from them, though never endlessly. It is balance, not power." Daniel watched with interest. He had seen many strange abilities across the stars, but something about their control over the crystals felt natural, almost alive. Solara dropped the wood near the stones. "Show us your way now, human. How do you call fire without crystals?" Daniel smiled faintly. He pulled out a small kit from his pack and began to work. With practiced hands, he struck steel against flint, sending sparks onto the dry wood. Soon, flames crackled to life, warming the grove with orange glow. The twins leaned closer, eyes wide with wonder. "So simple," Alara whispered, "yet so strong." Daniel chuckled. "That is humanity in one line. Simple, but strong." They shared food by the fire, speaking of their worlds. Daniel told them of Earth, of its oceans and forests, of music played by hands and voices rather than crystals. The twins listened with fascination, asking questions eagerly. In return, Solara spoke of the hidden valleys of Valoria, where mountains glowed at night with crystal veins. Alara described the ancient songs of their people, sung in harmony with the heartbeat of the land. The night stretched long, yet none of them wished for sleep. At one point, Solara's bold eyes softened. "Daniel, do you not fear her curse? Do you not fear that you will truly never find companionship?" Daniel looked into the fire. His face was calm, but his voice was firm. "Fear is not our way. If I walk alone, I walk with dignity. If I find companionship, it will not be because fate gave it to me. It will be because I chose it and because they chose me. That is what it means to be human." The grove fell silent. The flames danced, and the twins exchanged another glance. This time their expressions carried something unspoken, something new. When dawn came, Daniel prepared to move again, but the twins stood beside him. "You will not leave alone," Solara said firmly. "We walk with you now." Alara nodded, her voice quiet but steady. "Your path is dangerous, but together it may also be true." Daniel hesitated, then gave a small nod. "Then we walked together." For the first time since the curse, he did not feel the weight of loneliness. The road ahead was uncertain, filled with risk and the queen's wrath. But with the twins beside him, there was something else too. Hope. And far above, in the palace of crystal towers, Queen Serenia awoke from restless dreams. She sensed something had shifted, though she could not yet see what. Her curse, spoken in pride, had already begun to unravel in ways she had never imagined. The days that followed were unlike any Daniel had lived before. For the first time since leaving Earth, he did not travel alone. The queen's daughters, Solara and Alara, walked beside him as if they had always been part of his journey. They moved with grace, yet each step carried purpose. Solara, bold and fiery, loved to ask questions that tested Daniel's patience. "Why do humans always build with stone and steel?" she asked one evening as they camped by a wide river. "Why not grow your homes as we do with crystal?" Daniel smiled, showing her how he stacked stones in a small wall near their campfire. "Because stone lasts through storms, and steel holds when fire comes. Humans do not wait for the world to shape itself for them. We shape it with our hands." Solara's laughter echoed across the water. "Then perhaps that is why you do not bow to curses. Your hands build your fate." Ilara, softer in nature, often sat close to the fire and listened more than she spoke. But when she did speak, her words lingered. One night, as Daniel mended a tear in his cloak, she said quietly, "Your people, they sound lonely in the stars, yet not afraid. You walk into unknown darkness without wings, without crystal light, and yet you keep moving forward. That is not weakness, that is something greater." Daniel paused, the needle in his hand still. Her words warmed him more than the fire. "We move forward because if we stop, we vanish," he said, "and humans have never been good at giving up." The bond between the three deepened quickly. They shared food, stories, and laughter. Solara challenged Daniel to races across the fields, and though she was faster, he never gave up, which only made her respect him more. Ilara asked him to teach her earth songs, and he sang quietly at night, his voice rough yet steady, while the twins listened as if hearing something sacred. But peace did not last forever. One morning, as they journeyed through a mountain pass, glowing with veins of blue crystal, they heard voices carried on the wind. Soldiers armored in silver and black were hunting. Daniel's instincts sharpened, and he pulled the twins into the cover of rocks. The soldiers marched with banners, bearing the queen's crest. Their leader shouted, "Find the cursed human. The queen demands his capture. Bring him alive if possible, broken if not." Solara's fists clenched. "Mother has sent hunters." Daniel looked at her firmly. "Then she knows you are with me." Ilara's calm voice trembled for the first time. "She will not forgive us if she finds us. To her, this is betrayal." Daniel's jaw tightened. He could face hunters alone, but he would not risk the twins. Yet when he spoke, Solara cut him off. "We will not leave you," she said fiercely. "If they want you, they must go through us." Ilara nodded, her gentle eyes hardening. "We chose this path. We do not turn back now." Daniel felt something stir in his chest. In a galaxy filled with power and pride, he had found two who stood with him not out of fear or duty, but out of choice. That was something no curse could erase. When the soldiers drew near, Daniel stepped out of hiding, his posture tall. Solara stood to his right, her blade drawn and glowing with crystal energy. Ilara stood to his left, her hands raised, soft light gathering in her palms. The leader sneered. "The cursed human dares defy the queen, and he hides behind her daughters? Pathetic." Daniel's voice rang strong. "I hide behind no one. I stand with them, and they stand with me. That is more than your queen will ever understand." The battle was swift and fierce. The soldiers advanced with spears of crystal, their armor gleaming. Daniel fought with nothing but his steel blade and his will. Solara struck with blazing speed, cutting through their ranks with fury. Ilara's light shielded them, turning deadly strikes aside. Together they held their ground. And when the last soldier fell back, broken and shamed, the leader spat at Daniel's feet. "This is not the end. The queen will come herself if she must." Then they fled into the shadows of the mountains, leaving only silence behind. The three stood together, breathing heavily. Solara's cheek was cut, Daniel's arm bruised, and Ilara's energy dimmed from the effort. Yet none of them felt defeat. Solara sheathed her blade and looked at Daniel with fire in her eyes. "Now the whole kingdom will know. We stand with you against her." Ilara touched Daniel's arm, her voice soft but unshaken. "And we will not regret it." Daniel looked at them both, his chest rising with breath. He felt the queen's curse press against him like a shadow, but in that moment it seemed weak compared to the light beside him. That night, as they rested by the river, Daniel spoke words he had not planned. You should know, I did not ask for this. Your loyalty, your fight. But I will honor it. I will not fail you. Solara smirked. Good, because we do not choose weak men. Ilara smiled faintly. And we do not give loyalty lightly. Daniel stared into the fire. He realized then that this was no longer just about survival or defiance. Something deeper tied him to them. Something that even the Queen's curse could not cut. The road ahead was dangerous. The Queen's wrath would only grow. But for the first time since he left Earth, Daniel felt he was no longer wandering. He had found something worth standing for. The fire burned brightly into the night, and though none of them said the word, all three knew what had begun. An alliance not of duty, but of hearts. And far away, in her crystal throne room, Queen Serenya's spies reported what had happened. Her fury shook the hall, her voice like thunder. He dares defy me still? And my daughters betray me for him? She roared. Then let it be known, this human is no longer cursed alone. He is my enemy. And those who stand with him will share his fate. The seeds of war had been planted. The mountains stretched for days, their peaks glowing faintly with veins of blue crystal. Daniel, Solara, and Ilara moved quietly through the hidden passes, their bond growing stronger with every step. But the shadow of the Queen's wrath followed, them like a storm that could not be outrun. Each village they passed whispered of soldiers searching, banners with the Queen's crest rising high. Farmers turned their faces away, merchants closed their stalls, and children hid when they saw the human traveler. The curse had spread far beyond the throne hall. Daniel was no longer just a man under Serenya's spell. He had become a symbol of rebellion, and the Queen would not let that stand. One evening, as the three sheltered in a small cave, Solara sharpened her blade while Daniel studied the stars above. Ilara's quiet voice broke the silence. She will not stop. You know, this, Daniel. Mother's pride burns brighter than her wisdom. If we stay in shadows, she will only send more soldiers. If we keep running, we will be hunted until there is no ground left to walk on. Daniel nodded slowly. I know. His voice carried no fear, only thought. A storm does not pass by hiding from it. Sometimes you have to walk straight into the storm. Solara turned sharply, her eyes flashing. You speak of facing her? Daniel met her gaze. Yes, I cannot let her control my fate, or yours. If I bow to her curse, then I prove her right. But if I stand before her, I show her and her court that her words mean nothing against human will. Ilara's hand rested lightly on his arm. If you face her, we face her with you. Solara grinned fiercely. And we will not bow this time, even to our mother. That night the choice was made. They would not run. They would return to the Queen's palace and challenge her openly. The next morning they set out toward the capital. The journey took 3 days, each step drawing them closer to danger. The city walls rose tall in the distance, glittering with crystal towers. As they approached, soldiers lined the gates, but whispers rushed faster than commands. The cursed human had returned, and with him, the hidden princesses. When Daniel stepped into the throne hall once more, silence fell. Nobles crowded the balconies, their jeweled robes shining, their faces filled with shock. No one had expected him to return, least of all with the Queen's daughter standing boldly at his side. Queen Serenya sat high upon her throne, her crown pulsing with living light. Her eyes burned as they fell on him. You dare return, human, she thundered. You defy my curse, and now you drag my daughters into your shame. Speak, and I will end your life here. Daniel stepped forward, unflinching. His voice rang, clear. You cursed me to never marry, to never find companionship, to walk alone until the end of my days. Yet here I stand, not alone, but with your daughters at my side. Your curse has no power, because no curse can bind the will of a human heart. Gasps rippled through the hall. The nobles leaned forward, shocked by his courage. No one spoke to the Queen this way. Serenya's face darkened with rage. You twist fate with arrogance. You think standing beside them means you have won? My word is law, and my curse eternal. They will abandon you, as all must. You will end, as I have spoken. But before Daniel could reply, Solara stepped forward, her voice fierce. Mother, enough. We are not shadows to be hidden behind your throne. We are not jewels locked away to guard your pride. We are daughters of Valoria, and we choose our own path. We choose him. The hall erupted in whispers. The queen's own daughter had spoken against her openly before all. Ilara's voice followed, calm yet strong, carrying further than thunder. You cursed him, but curses are only chains if we believe in them. We do not. We stand with him, because he is stronger than fear, stronger than pride. We will not abandon him. We will walk with him into the future. The queen's fury trembled through the hall, her hands gripping the arms of her throne. You betray me. For him? A mortal wanderer? Daniel's voice rose above the noise, steady and bold. Not betrayal, Serenia. Truth. Your daughters see what you cannot, that no ruler, no curse, no throne can control the choices of free hearts. And today, I make mine. He turned to the court, his voice echoing against the crystal pillars. Before all here, I declare, I will marry them, both Solara and Ilara, and together we will build a bond no curse can break. The hall froze in shock. Never in Valoria's history had such words been spoken. To claim one princess was bold beyond reason, but to claim both, it was madness. Yet the twins stood proudly at his side, their eyes unshaken, their choice clear. Solara lifted her chin. I accept. Ilara placed her hand in Daniel's. As do I. The nobles erupted in chaos. Some shouted in anger, others gasped in disbelief, but many whispered with awe. The human had not only defied the queen's curse, he had shattered it before their eyes. The queen rose from her throne, her voice like fire. This is treason. You disgrace my bloodline, my throne, my rule. But as her fury raged, Daniel's calm strength only grew. He did not shout, he did not threaten. He simply stood tall, his presence unbroken. Then let history remember this day, he said, his voice carrying like steel. The day a curse was broken not by magic, not by power, but by human will. You said I would never marry Serenia, and yet before your own eyes I have chosen, and they have chosen me. The court trembled, caught between fear of their queen and awe of the human. Serenia's curse had been shattered, and no amount of fury could hide it. For the first time the queen did not speak. Her lips moved, but no words came. She had unleashed her greatest weapon against the human, and it had failed. Daniel turned, leading the twins from the hall. The nobles stepped aside, some in fear, some in respect. Behind him, the queen stood frozen, her crown's light dimmed. That night, the palace still buzzed with whispers. Some called him a fool, others called him a legend, but none could deny the truth. Serenia's curse had been broken, and the human had done what no one in Valoria dared. As Daniel sat with Solara and Ilara beneath the starlit sky, the twins leaned close. You faced her without fear, Ilara whispered. Daniel smiled faintly. Not without fear, but with resolve. That is what matters. Solara grinned, her fire still burning. And you claimed us both before the whole court. Bold, even for a human. Daniel laughed softly. Boldness is all I have left. But if it means standing with you, then I will never regret it. The stars shone bright above them. The curse was broken, the queen defied, and a new path had opened. But the story was not yet finished. For power never yields without a final strike. And in the depths of her throne hall, Queen Serenia's silence twisted into something darker. The human had won the moment, but the queen was not yet defeated. The capital of Valoria had not known such chaos in centuries. Word of Daniel's bold declaration spread faster than fire through dry fields. Every market, every street, every hall whispered of the human who had laughed at the queen's curse, and then claimed both her daughters as his wives. Some mocked the act as madness. Others whispered it was destiny. But none could deny the truth. Daniel had broken what everyone believed unbreakable. The palace still trembled with the weight of Queen Serenya's fury. She had locked herself within her chamber, refusing to speak even to her closest advisors. The nobles argued among themselves, some urging war against the human and others urging peace, fearing what might happen if the queen's power was questioned. Daniel did not seek the throne hall again. He had spoken his words, and that was enough. Now he prepared for what came next. He and the twins left the palace behind, choosing instead a valley outside the city walls. There, beneath the wide sky of Valoria, they began to build something different, something that did not belong to the queen, the court, or the curse. Solara, ever bold, declared it was fitting that their union not be chained to stone walls or crystal thrones. If we marry under the open stars, then even the heavens themselves will be our witnesses, she said with fire in her eyes. Alara agreed, her soft voice steady. And no one, not even Mother, can claim dominion over the stars. Daniel smiled at their resolve. Then under the stars it shall be. Preparation spread quickly. Though many nobles feared the queen's wrath, others saw this as a moment that could not be stopped. Silent allies came forward. Traitors, wanderers, even a few Valorian guards who admired Daniel's defiance. They brought gifts of food, woven, cloth and crystal lights to honor the coming union. The valley was transformed. Torches and crystal lanterns lined the grass. Glowing softly, a stream reflected the night sky, carrying the shimmer of the moons like silver ribbons. Daniel wore no crown, no robe. He stood in simple attire, his earthborn jacket cleaned and mended, his boots polished though worn. The twins stood beside him, dressed in gowns of silver and white. Solara's hair was braided with strands of crystal light, while Ilara's veil shimmered like mist. As night fell, people gathered quietly at the edges of the valley. They came not by command, but by choice. Farmers, nobles, travelers, and even merchants stood together, their eyes fixed on the human and the princesses who had chosen him. The ceremony began with silence. No priest dared officiate, no voice could claim authority over such a union. Instead, Daniel spoke first. When I came to Valoria, I was told I was young among the stars, that I was weak, that I would never belong. I was cursed to walk alone. But I stand here now not alone, but with two who defied fear and chose me as I chose them. This is what it means to be human, not to bend to fate, but to make it with our own hands, our own hearts. Solara stepped forward, her voice burning like fire. I am Solara, daughter of Serenia, but I am more than her daughter. I am a warrior, a leader, and a woman who chooses her own path. I choose Daniel, because he is unbroken, because when the galaxy told him he could not stand, he rose higher, and with him I rise too. Ilara followed, her voice soft yet carrying farther than any shout. I am Ilara, daughter of Serenia, but I am more than her blood. I am light, song, and memory. I choose Daniel because he walks with truth, because when the world turned away from him he stood unshaken. And with him I find not fear but hope. The crowd stood in silence, their hearts stirred. Daniel took both their hands, his voice steady. Then before all who see, before the stars themselves, I marry you both, not as a curse broken, but as a future chosen. From this day we are one. Solara and Ilara echoed as one. From this day we are one. The valley erupted in sound, not from drums or trumpets, but from voices. Cheers rose, not commanded but free, ringing into the night sky. The queen did not appear. From her palace window, Serenia watched the union from afar. Her pride twisted within her chest, heavy and bitter. She had cursed the human to walk alone, yet here he was standing with her daughters, breaking chains she thought unbreakable. For the first time in her reign, her word had failed. She turned away, her crown dimming. The galaxy would whisper of this day not as her triumph, but as her defeat. When the ceremony ended, the people lingered. They feasted beneath the moons, sharing food and song. Daniel laughed as Solara teased him for his rough earth songs, while Ilara joined him softly, her voice weaving harmony with his. The curse no longer haunted him. Instead, his life felt full, fuller than it had ever been. Later, as the night grew quiet and the people drifted back to their homes, Daniel sat with Solara and Ilara by the stream. The stars reflected in the water, endless and bright. Solara leaned against him, her fiery spirit at peace. "You changed everything, Daniel. You came as a stranger and now you stand as family." Ilara placed her hand gently on his. "And you showed us that destiny is not chains, but choices." Daniel looked at them both, his heart steady. "We did this together, and together we will face whatever comes." The stream sang softly, the stars watched silently, and the valley carried the promise of a new dawn. In the days that followed, change spread through Valoria. Some nobles still grumbled, clinging to the queen's pride, but others spoke of Daniel as a symbol, a human who had shown that fate could be broken. The twins, once hidden, now walked openly as leaders beside him, their voices shaping new paths for their people. Trade between Earth and Valoria began to grow, no longer chained by mistrust, and though the queen's silence remained heavy, the people began to whisper not of her curse but of the human who had broken it. Months later, Daniel stood at the edge of the valley, watching the sunrise with Solara and Ilara. The journey had been long, the struggle fierce, but the curse that once bound him had become the very reason he found his greatest strength. The queen had cursed him to never marry, yet now, he had not only found love but shared it with two who had chosen him freely, against fear, against pride, against fate. And so, the curse became nothing but a broken shadow in the past, while his future burned brighter than the stars themselves. Daniel smiled as the suns rose, his hands held by Solara and Ilara. Together, they faced the new day, not cursed, not chained, but free. And the galaxy, watching from afar, would forever remember the human who defied a queen's curse and built a future beyond it.